It's The Drive with Tim Donnelly here on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis Cox sitting in for Tim today. Hope everyone had a great 4th of July holiday. Victoria Vodenecker, my apologies, Victoria.
It's okay.
You know, yesterday was an off day, so you know what? It feels like Saturday.
It does.
Or
We're all
actually
confused.
Sunday. It kind of feels like Sunday a little bit.
I've heard my name many different ways, so that's totally fine. But yes, it does. Yeah, I'm all thrown off. I don't know what day it is.
It won't be the first time I butcher a name today.
Fine.
That's
It's
all
totally
honestly. Because
okay.
yesterday felt like Saturday.
Yeah.
It's like, oh wait, I got to come in today, and then I'm off tomorrow.
I know.
Anyway, it's just kind of weird.
We're all thrown off.
But thanks for tuning in today here on The Drive. Victoria's going to chip in throughout the day today. We'll be back to normal on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Hope everyone is enjoying their 4th of July weekend and had a safe 4th of July weekend. If you missed it over the last couple of days, Canes have made a couple of moves. Now, nothing that's going to be like 10 bell, the alarm, like, oh my goodness, what's happening going on? Or like nothing major. Martin Necas was not traded, but the Canes did make a couple of moves. They signed Jack Roslovic, forward. We'll get into the signing here a little bit. And they're actually trading defenseman Dylan Coughlin. We'll dive into that here in just a little bit. But a lot of the sentiment this week, Victoria, I'm sure you probably noticed it as well. There's a lot of frustration from Canes fans.
Yes, a lot.
A lot of frustration from Canes fans. We'll dive into that. But first, actually, let's acknowledge the signings and trade.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Jack Roslovic, 1 year, $2.8 million deal. 27 years old, birthday's in January, so still like in the peak prime of his career, I guess you can say, or entering it. Was in Columbus the last couple years at the trade deadline. The Rangers picked him up as like a depth player for New York. He can play center or wing, and he's right-handed, and that's the thing that Carolina has wanted was a right-handed centerman or a guy that can take faceoffs right-handed.
Yep.
So they have a guy that's experienced doing that. Now, he can play center or right wing. My guess is because he's killed penalties in the past, his role will be to take faceoffs on the right side of the goaltender in the defensive zone. Brind'amour, one of the best faceoff guys ever, and can really coach him up to be even better than what he is. Then maybe we'll see that be his role. Might play 13, 14 minutes a night.
Sure.
Which is fine, but they got that key piece that Rob Brind'amour really wants.
I like his versatility.
Exactly, a little versatility. The bottom six for Carolina is really strong. You factor in Roslovic's signing, which, by the way, Roslovic has hit 20 goals in a season in his career once, and he's hit the 40-point mark twice in his career. So it's not like he's offensively inept.
Right.
So, yeah, bottom six guy that can potentially put up 40 points. Okay, I'll take that. You need those guys on your roster, too, especially come playoff time.
Definitely do now.
Exactly.
Oof.
But you have Martin Nook back, Jordan Stahl obviously back, Jack Drury back, William Carrier, who they signed, Roslovic, Eric Robinson, who they signed. Eric Robinson, big guy. I'm just talking just bottom six forwards right now.
Yeah.
Foss, if he's healthy.
Yeah.
Big key right there. Brendan Lemieux coming back. Tyson Jost. Pretty solid group for like a bottom six.
Sure.
We all know that top trio of Sebastian Aho, Seth Jarvis, Andrei Svechnikov. Like, that's the top three, right?
Mm-hmm.
Defense, they made a couple signings with Sean Walker. They brought back Shane Gostisbehere. Chatfield, as you just mentioned, coming back along with Jacob Slavin and Brent Burns and Dmitry Orlov. I like their defensive unit.
Yeah. Which that's what we do. We're a defense team.
But the frustration for Carolina fans is what's after that top trio in terms of scoring. Is Martin Necas even going to be on the team?
Exactly. Big question mark.
Can
we sign Jarvis, please, and thank you?
Well, I mean, Jarvis will be here.
He will.
He will be here.
I just want to get it done.
Oh, yeah,
I don't want us to play with our food anymore because you see what happened with Jake. So.
Well, that's a little bit different. But restricted free agency, there's it's a little bit different. Unless someone signs him to some crazy stupid offer sheet, but that would have happened already. So, question is, all right, is Martin Necas going to be on the team? If he's not, what's coming back in return? Can Evgeny Kuznetsov be the number 2 center for your team? Which we saw him flirt with that role a little bit last year, but during the postseason, defensive liability, had that time off because he was in the player assistance program, really wasn't up to speed, adjusting to the system, actually played a lot of fourth line minutes in the playoffs. Can he actually be a number 2 center for you for this season? Can Jesperi Kotkaniemi be the number 2 center that he's paid to be?
Oh my goodness, that's a whole different can of worms. Making
$4.8 million a year. He's paid to be that. He hasn't shown that yet. So there are major questions there. And this is where, again, frustration for Canes fans really sets in, is because we looked at last year, or last season, just a couple months ago, when the Canes got eliminated from the playoffs. You thought everything was perfect. The roster that they put together was the most complete roster that they've had in the 6 years under Rob brind'amour.
Yeah.
The most complete.
This was our year.
You went and got Jake Gensel to be that top-line scorer, along with Aho. Mm-hmm. You had that, and you made the move to get Kuznetsov to be that number 2 center.
Right.
You had everything set defensively. Freddie Anderson, Victoria, was hot at the end of the season. Like the regular season, the dude was hot.
End of the regular, yeah, for sure.
End of the regular season, that dude was cooking. Mm-hmm. And Pyotr Kochetkov, like the 1-2 tandem that those guys had, you're like, let's go.
We're solid.
Like, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
And then the playoffs hit.
Yeah.
And then Freddie was no longer hot and sizzling. Not only he wasn't even lukewarm, he got cold real quick. You still had questions at that number 2 center. You had to put Jack Drury to be your number 2 center. I'm a Jack Drury guy. I've confessed that. I'm a Jack Drury guy because I love the way he plays, and he really fits what Rob brind'amour wants.
Yeah.
But as like a 3rd or 4th line center.
Sure, yeah.
But he does a lot of small things that make small winning plays, but he's not a top 2 center. Yeah. That's fine. That's totally okay. Mm-hmm. But you had to have him in that position where he was playing with Martin Necas and Jordan Martinook. Now, that line was actually pretty effective. But still, it's not the most ideal thing because, again, Kotkaniemi didn't play what you expected him to be.
He has not been playing up to what we had hoped he would.
And also, as well, you look at the special teams, which was one of the best in the league, both PK and power play. Mm-hmm. We're both top 3 in the entire league. Might as well put them both on a milk carton because they went away in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And the window to win, that opportunity was right there for Carolina because you had Jack Drury on a cheap contract on his entry-level deal. Same thing with Seth Jarvis. That's the reason why you were able to have all the guys you had. Jake Gensel was making just $6 million. Mm-hmm. Like, that's reasonable to fit in. The Washington Capitals kept half of the salary for Evgeny Kuznetsov. That's the reason why you were able to bring him in. Everything was fit perfectly. You had Jalen Chatfield making $775,000. You had Stefan Nason making less than $800,000. Like, you were able to actually put together that good of a roster, and you fell short. And the frustration now is for Carolina fans, you thought last year you had all the answers. Now going into this offseason, or where we are in this offseason right now, you have way more questions than you do answers.
A ton more questions.
Way more questions than you do answers.
Well, and it's very frustrating, too, and I understand why Canes fans, including me, are frustrated, is because we needed the goal scoring to happen, which was kind of hit or miss last season. And now we're even, less. We have less guys to be that goal scorer. So who's going to be scoring these goals? After the first line's off, what are we doing?
I mentioned this on Wednesday when we talked about this, is that where the goal scoring is going to come from. The Carolina Hurricanes, basically 80 of their goals they scored in the regular season are no longer on the team. So basically 1 goal per game is off the team. So it was about 28.9%. And then in the postseason, 28.9% of their postseason goal production off the roster as well. So you're literally looking at 1 out of every 4 goals needs to be replaced from last year. And heck, you probably needed a little bit more, especially the playoff time. Now, you could have stopped a couple more, but, that's a different conversation. But nonetheless, more questions. There are questions about Freddie Anderson in goal.
Yeah.
Right?
Lots
are
of
you going to roll back with him in the playoffs, or are you going to finally turn things over to Kochetkov? That's a major question right now.
Which should have been a little earlier in the playoffs as well, but that's a whole different.
I'll stand by it, especially when the Canes got up 3-0 against the New York Islanders. I say you should have played Kochetkov right then.
He needed that experience. I would have loved to have seen that.
I think as well as that you take a little bit of the burden off of Freddie, rest him a little bit, but also it's a little bit of a lower stakes game.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you lose, you're still up 3-1.
Yeah.
You can always go back to Freddie. I thought that would have been more vital.
It was just crazy, too, because that's all you would hear is, okay, well, Freddie needs time off. Like, after he plays a couple games, he needs a little break, a rester. But he never got that. And that's where I'm like, what are we doing?
Never got it. And even in the regular season when he wasn't playing, Spencer Martin was backing up when Kochetkov was starting, so he wasn't even dressing. So it's just little things like that. But nonetheless, that we could rehash that, for however long we want to. But nonetheless, there are more questions, Victoria, than there are answers.